Okay, thank you for reconvening. There's been a discussion about item C. So I've checked with Sir Brian. He didn't really mind whether it's in or out. I don't mind whether it's in or out. Councillor Bartley doesn't mind whether it's in or out, but apparently some councillors want it out. So on the basis that we don't mind, then we'll pull it out. We are assuring, and I know that I'll get beaten to a pulp if I don't look after Ponsonby, because we'll go back a very long way, and they've got memories like elephants and legs like them as well, as I remember tackling them. So we are now moved and seconded, and we will have debates.
Sorry to interrupt you, but just to be clear on your that, because I have had some councillors ask that your recommendations essentially result in Western Springs Speedway going to Waikaraka Park. I just want to be very sure that that's what this vote endorses. Is that correct?
That we'll be discussing now, but it does. It makes it very bleak for Western Springs, for Speedway to stay there. That's for sure.
Yeah, so I'm just be sure that's what this resolution
basically
says.
That's what I said at the start of the day. You either go there with or without $11 million. So there'll be plenty want to speak, no doubt. You, Councillor Watson, you want to open this?
I've actually moved an amendment, Mr. Yeah.
Have you got a second for the amendment? Okay. What's the amendment? Sorry, I can't see it. What's the reaction? It'll sit in the future and be deferred. The trouble with that is that unless we do B, you can't fund A. So that nothing will happen with that one. But okay, it's up there as an amendment. You want to talk to the amendment?
Okay, thanks. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. There's an amendment up, moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Lee, that I seek your support in. And I dispense with first A. There's no one here, or indeed in Western Springs Speedway or anywhere else, who doesn't agree that Waikaraka Park is in a parlous state, has been for decades, and work needs to occur there irrespective. No one's going to disagree with that. However, that doesn't mean that that one of Auckland's most iconic sporting codes is put to the sword as an almost a sacrificial lamb. You would hardly think that today and right here and now we're deciding the fate of a 95-year-old institution that is Speedway at Western Springs, which is internationally acclaimed. It's famous around the world. Yet that's exactly what's happening here with this vote. It comes as a consequence of a deeply flawed process, if you can even call it that. I found out about this by reading a newspaper article. That's how I found out that this was even coming up. Appeared in the October 8 article on stuff by Steve Gilgallen, who says it's likely an Auckland Council meeting in October 31 will be asked to sign off ambitious plans for the backers of the new Auckland FCA lead. And as a consequence of that, we would mean the eviction of Ponsonby Rugby and Western Springs Speedway become the first domino to fall in a stadium reshuffle over the next 5 years that would change Auckland's sporting landscape. So here we are in the almost laughable situation where council is preparing to vote out the main tenant, who has coexisted very well with Ponsonby Rugby over the last 3 decades, without apparently any idea of what's coming to replace it. That's a bit of a stretch. And it comes as a backdrop where most of the people involved with Western Springs Speedway, as we found out in the last few days, didn't even know it was happening. So what sort of confidence can the public have where the affected parties have only just found out at the 12th hour, and I would be very confident a lot of them don't even know as we speak now. We saw today that 5 of the classes at Western Springs, the overwhelming number of them want to stay there. Indeed, the poor old operator who's tried to make it work at Western Springs has given their support almost at the end of a gun in terms of an ultimatum that's given to them. We're not renewing your lease, and you're going. You have no future. I thought that's a public stadium. I thought that all people of Auckland own those stadiums, and that their elected representatives decide what happened there, not some official behind the scenes who's making the call on who stays and who goes, and without even telling those same elected officials or Auckland Council or public what's in store, what's in plan. And it's not as if we can really say we've got over and abiding confidence in the process here. What have we seen in our stadiums over the last decade? Mount Smart. The Warriors are going to get forced to go to the North Shore, the Eastern Stand demolished, and Mount Smart turned into a speedway track. After that, then it was going to be $400 million to fix it up. As it stands now, it plays the packed out Warriors games, rugby tests and concert. At Western Springs, in contrast to the $400 million at Mount Smart, $12 million for an international cricket ground for one test a year. Speedway booted out again. Now yet we have another iteration at Western Springs. North Harbour Stadium was going to be the new stand, covered roof, Warriors games, before just a few months ago to demolition and sale, not before blasting out half the ground. Eden Park, that was another one, was going to have the bulldozer through it, and subsequently host to the second biggest sporting event in the world, the Women's World Cup, concerts, and is on the up and up. And funny enough, I just remember not so long ago that at Eden Park they were saying the same things. You can't have concerts, the neighbours don't like it. What have they got now? They're holding more concerts than ever. There's going to be even more once they cover it in. All those unitary plan decisions can be appealed. Western Springs can be changed even through a resource consent, far less a plan change. They are fully compliant with all those conditions, have been for the last decade. The non-compliance was historic and dated to a time that predates this council. So the notion that it can't be made work is a false one, is palpably false. We know that there are indeed, as a consequence of this process, one good thing has come out of it. There are parties that have the capability to make it work there and are at this very moment investigating how that may or may not be possible with operators who have been involved in Speedway and have a track record there. So I would just say to everyone, is it even worth making that appeal? Leave out what happens at Western Springs. Leave out Waikaraka Park. Do you support the sham of a process we've been through? An absolute sham. There's people in here who know exactly what's happening and haven't said a dicky bird for 2 years. 6 years they've had. We're meant to be elected people that see that there's fairness and transparency. Now, by any measure, that hasn't happened in any shape or form. This has been an ambush. It's a jack-up in colloquial terms. And I'm sure that's what everyone here would think. So I put it to you, I agree absolutely with Waikaraka. I don't know what the outcome of the West, if things are as they've been portrayed or not. I think I've pointed out enough instances of the past with all our stadiums where it has not been. It's just as well the governing body has stood up, or else Mount Smart would be a speedway track. North Harbour would be demolished. Western Springs would have been labouring under the misapprehension you can build a cricket oval for $12 million. All nonsense. How do you know this isn't the same? Because you do not know what's planned here. They've told us you don't know, even though Mr. Gilgallen and stuff seems to know everything that's happening and all the other consequences. So my plea to you today is to stand up for process, and not process on a technicality, process on what's fair and transparent for all these people and all the fans they represent. You owe it to a 95-year-old iconic Auckland institution that is known the world over. You owe it to those people to see due process goes through here and then make your decision.
Councillor, Deputy Mayor Simpson, please.
Right, yes, I do have a question. Could I ask Tātaki a question, please, around this amendment? Because it supports me, is it possible? Can you come to the table, please? Because I do support the delivery of works at Waikaraka Park.
Sorry to interrupt, Deputy Mayor. We're in debate. That opportunity was provided at the start.
I didn't.
It's an amendment, so she's asking a question about the amendment.
It doesn't matter, we're in the debate. We've had questions.
I'm told that we can ask a question about the amendment because, so I'm going to allow a question about the amendment, only about the amendment.
Because it's, the key to this is money, and it supports the delivery of work at Waikaraka Park. But if this amendment goes through, will Tātaki move their money to the local board if Speedway doesn't move? I mean, or if there is a delay, i.e. defer the decision. I just need to understand the implication for Tātaki's financial request of this committee.
Debating tools, that's not acceptable.
That's a very good question because you said in your start that we are debating the end of Speedway. We're actually deciding where it would be for 30 years. It's not, that's quite different. And you have asked to support the works, and she's asking, you guys asked for at least 11 questions from Wayne and about 5 from you about where was the money coming from.
Yes,
so we want to find out, and now...
In the middle of a debate. That's my point.
Your point is, my point is that you have an amendment and I've asked the people and we're allowed to ask a question. I'm accepting that question. You want to have an open process, but you don't want to have an open process. I'm allowing that question.
You've asked a question whether we would continue to invest our capital to be transferred to Waikaraka Park with that amendment there, where the answer is no.
I've opened the door, so we'll have a question from Councillor Town.
Thank you. So what you're saying is that the money is, forgive my terms, a fabrication of the facts, because you're actually saying that it's your losses that you're capitalising, correct, to make that 11 million?
We'd say we would generate more revenue if Speedway moved, which supports the capitalisation that leads to that 11 million.
So going back again, the $11 million is coming from, you're justifying it on the books by what you said is your losses, which you also said wasn't all to do with Speedway, it's to do with the whole operating losses, correct?
If Speedway wasn't there, we would generate 1.1 million more on the work we've done.
You think? And so the money, the $11 million, is coming from what you anticipate not to spend by Speedway going, is that correct?
The money is coming from our capital budget, which we, through the programming of our capital works, allows us to make that funding available for.
So again, because I'm still not clear, I'm sorry, I have trouble digesting this, but on behalf of the person who made I'm worried that that doesn't separate the dollars from the action, because actually there's a harpoon here which has got an $11 million string to it. So to the Mayor I heard say just before, A can't happen if B's there because you can't fund A. What can you fund? You've got no funds to give to Waikaraka Park unless you take the abstract savings of the potential losses of Speedway, correct?
No, the capital budget is there. The board will make that available because the Tātaki receives a benefit of 1.1 million if it is able to use the stadium in summer.
Thank you. So the issues are inseparable, correct? Thank you.
Good question, good answer. Now, we're going to we'll carry on with debating the amendment
Yeah, I had a question to John, if that's all right. John, I think you can ask questions of the mover, can't you?
Well, you can't, but go ahead.
I'd only do it, John, if you're
Through the
comfortable with
chair,
that.
excuse me, through the chair, Standing Order 1.2.8, questions to staff. During a debate, members can ask during a debate, members can ask staff questions about the matters being discussed. Questions cannot be asked once a debate has concluded. Questions must be asked through the chairperson and are at his or her discretion.
And just because on amendments, is that the same rule? It is, okay. All right, I won't. The question isn't of the staff. I wanted to direct it to the mover, but okay, John, it might be helpful. So I'm just want to understand the intentions of both of those. So the first one there, rather than asking officers, just your intention there, would you see that being delivered through Tautaki as it is now, or was you thinking that that might go back through the local board?
Well, Councillor Sayers, in the first instance, it's to make it clear that there's overwhelming, if not unanimous, support for Waikaraka Park having the urgent works to fix it up. I was out there last night. It's a disgrace, and the fact that it's been allowed to be in that condition for so long, doesn't reflect well on the council. That's number one. Number two, as far as the funding of it goes, from my perspective, there is reference in point 71 that Councillor Lee referred to of the intention of the Tātaki board to seek reimbursement from council. The Tātaki board noted that Tātaki management will continue to liaise with council staff to seek reimbursement of $8 million with a view to reducing the net Tātaki contribution to $3 million. In reality, Councillor Sayers, if there's a will to make this work, it can work. Clearly, it can work in terms of their budget here and now, which is provided 100% by us and through their capital works, capital grant comes from council. So to me, it's a little bit smoke and mirrors to be suggesting that if that is supported, that funding can be found. If they don't want to do it, then that really, without wishing to offend anyone, that seems a little bit like blackmail. Do this or you don't get the money. That has pervaded this process, and I find that a bit objectionable.
Okay, thanks, John. I guess the reason for my question was to make sure you felt it was worded correctly, so you answered that.
So I think we're going to debate now.
Sorry, mate. In around B, that will obviously require more money in the future, and there's obviously some time there. So again, just to understand your expectations there, would that then occur after the exercise of looking at the stadium strategy and probably be part of a future LTP process to find the funding required to implement that?
Good question, Councillor Sayers. We have a resolution on the book that a number of councillors have brought up that before any decision on the future of Western Springs occurs, that there is a discussion of committees of the whole, not a couple of people on a stadium working party who don't appear to have talked about it anyway, in respect of what it means for Western Springs, how it affects all the other stadia, and also how Eden Park fits into the mix. And the reason for that, and the reason that resolution was put up back in 2018, was to avoid the very situation we find ourselves in now, where people are voting for something, as Mr. Gilgallen says, the first domino that knocks over a whole lot of other things, not just at Western Springs, but conceivably at other stadia, going right through to the Grand Waterfront or Quay Street iteration, however that might emerge. So that clause there, B, is to reflect that resolution that was designed to avoid the kind of ad hoc, we're just deciding this today, when everyone knows they're not. This sets in train other things that will occur as a consequence of this, not least of which at Western Springs.
Okay, now we're going into debate. Daniel
You have a
Newman's the
question?
first to make a speech on debate.
Well, I had a question. I wanted a question of John.
Oh, shit.
Well,
Do that?
You're the chair.
if the mover will
Okay,
accept.
make the point through the debate. I'm sure you can make that.
Oh, well.
You're very good at this. Councillor Turner, would you like to debate this? All right, well, if that's the case, then Turner, Newman, you can ask a question, and Turner, you can ask a question. No, don't get upset about this. You can ask a question.
Councillor Williamson, Councillor Watson. With respect, well, yeah.
You'd have a sore head.
With respect to B, because I have a degree of sympathy on this, but with respect to B, do you have any sense of timing? Would this take 2 months with the clubs and codes for the other venues? Can you get a sense as to where this would be? I think you've raised some pretty fair points, but at some point this has to land. And I can tell you, as someone who is on the Stadia Working Party, I think that the scope of what we've been talking about is rather narrow compared to what's been reported. So could you give some sense?
Yes, thank you, Councillor Newman, for the question. This doesn't need to be a protracted exercise. I think one of the advantages of what's happened to date, if you can call it an advantage, is that there are now a lot more people aware of what's being proposed than was the case previously. So I think we're actually in a position, as far as Western Springs goes, and conceivably the other stadia, where people can make a more informed choice. You don't need any big, lengthy consultation process. Something that fulfills the requirements of that resolution as it goes to us, the elected people, and there's 3 distinct parts to that. And as far as the other stakeholders go, I think in good faith with Western Springs, there's been a number of quite justifiable questions asked about the probity of the process, the accuracy of some of the statements that are being made. There's a chance to clean that up and to do that in an expeditious fashion. I can't give you an exact time frame because I'm not in a position to do that. But I don't see that being lengthy. I think that could be happen in quite an expeditious manner.
Turner, question?
Thank you, Councillor. Are you comfortable? I'd be led by you. You've been here a lot longer than me, and you know the facts a lot better and the history. Lots happens, Mr. Mayor. We've let our assets run down and then we've run away from them rather than standing there and investing in them and keeping the character of Auckland. I would rather risk voting no to this than voting a yes that mightn't work. Are you happy that voting yes to that doesn't open the crack in the door? Do you think that you've disconnected it enough?
Well, I think so. This is, of course, is the amendment as opposed to, the main motion that has been moved. So what this does is address the undeniable evidence that's been put through us both by the local board, by Councillor Bartley, and by anyone who had actually gone out to Waikaraka Park to see that this has to be addressed, irrespective of anything. Whereas the second B fulfills that obligation for us to A, inform ourselves before making this decision, and B, consult with the affected parties as per the Local Government Act. And particularly, Councillor Turner, on an issue that has been so fraught with such a history behind it. This should have come as no surprise as to the people who tried to just drop this on our lap, that this was a matter that deserved as maximum transparency, openness and involvement, and then the decision, yay or nay, that's made after that, not the decision made and those other things overlooked.
Thank you.
Michael, you're the second, you can speak to this anyhow, so off you go.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Essentially, the amendment, A, upholds democratic decision-making as per the long-term plan, and B, upholds our lawful obligations under the Local Government Act in terms of decision-making. In terms of affected parties, it is of regret that a number of people who have come forward have been unable, who are affected parties, have been unable to address the council. The fact that questions went on for so long and actually rolled over into the debate is an indication that there is a deficit of information around this question, and the more questions there are, the better we all are for it. But anyway, hearing in regard to affected parties, I want to acknowledge Olna Ford of the Extreme Drivers League, James Selwyn of the Speedway Hall of Fame, Ron Kendall of the Midget Drivers Club, Sir Brian Williams and Peter Thorpe of the Ponsonby Rugby Club, plenipotentiaries and spokespeople of that famous club. They weren't able to speak today, which is a great pity. The Ponsonby Rugby Club have asked me as a local councillor to read out a brief statement on where their position lies on this question. And it says, Ponsonby Rugby Club is 150 years old. For the last 27 years, it has shared the use of the Western Springs Stadium and outer fields with Speedway and other event promoters. Although that has generally been successful, it has not been ideal. The club, its present club rooms and associated storage and other facilities need expansion and upgrade, particularly to meet growth in the women's game, and present field, lighting and changing room availability is inadequate. Also, the requirements to vacate completely during event setup and breakdown has been increasingly disruptive. The club has accordingly for many years considered any available alternatives and concluded that there are none. Included have been Cox's Bay and the outer fields, the two identified in the Tātaki Auckland Unlimited relocation study as possibilities, although each with difficulties. As demonstrated in its response to the Tātaki Auckland Unlimited relocation study, including the accompanying member survey and club general manager's report regarding field, lighting and changing rooms usage and inadequacies, the club is simply too big for either option. Cox's Bay is already used by the club to the maximum. Any attempt to locate the whole club there would demolish the amenity of the reserve, face insurmountable opposition to the extensive changes that would be necessary to the existing reserve management plan, don't forget that, and force an untenable reduction in the club's already inadequate facilities, with consequent detrimental impact on its ability to serve its community and to grow. So too would relocation to the outer fields also force an untenable reduction in the club's already inadequate facilities. The loss of fields and training spaces and absence of parking would detrimentally impact its ability to serve its community and to grow. Following the January 2023 flooding of the stadium, the club commissioned a leading architect to develop a concept that would provide for not only the club, but also other club and community users, including Speedway, were it to stay. As detailed in its response to the TAU relocation study, a community sports hub concept was developed, which would expand and enhance the present buildings by the addition of a second story above the reach of any future flooding and still be able to be accessed by the club during event setup and breakdown. The concept has the support of Ngāti Whātua Ōrākei at Auckland Rugby. Finally, the club considers that the public funds identified in the Tātaki Auckland Unlimited relocation study as being required to relocate the club were a suitable alternative to be available would be far better spent on that concept, and that is the Pete Bosley architectural plan, which could be achieved for a similar cost to the cheapest of the options identified in the TAU relocation study. Thank you. Can I just make some further comments in support of the resolution itself? And I may need an extension of time, but I'll try and be brief. The process we're dealing with thus far has been flawed. Let me put it that way. But the situation is not beyond redemption. We have it in our hands to fix it. So far, it's hard to find any accord with decision-making obligations in the Local Government Act. There's been no rigorous assessment of alternative options, no objective assessment or weighing of costs and benefits, and of course the inclusion, let alone consultation with affected parties, has not been evident. Therefore, what the real concern here is that instead of the decision-making required of us under the Local Government Act, there has been, in effect, a working through a plan, a concept which still remains largely confidential, the full extent of it. We hear hints. Councillor Williamson talked about billionaire soccer, and the rumours are going around about that, but that information has not been shared with us as the governing body members, and that's very disappointing. The objective, apparently, and let's put the best interpretation on it. Higher and better use sounds a bit like, to me, middle class gentrification, but let's give them the benefit of the doubt. But in terms of this higher and better use, it should be disclosed to us so that we can make a full and sound decision. It hasn't been. That information hasn't been shared, and what I'm concerned about when it comes to higher and better and the rumours and even press comments about billionaire soccer, I have to wonder what is higher and better in regard to billionaire soccer, the soccer or the billionaire. And when it comes to Speedway,
You've got an extension.
I'm going to finish now, Mr. Mayor.
This is not a time to...
Consolidation, it has difficult technical challenges. It sounds right, so it's not easy, as it said, to integrate all those various uses. Technically difficult. And I'll tell you one more thing about consolidation. Consolidation is not as great as it's talked up to be. I think that, if we're honest, the Super City is a good example of that. Thank you very much.
Councillor Walker, we've got the same three. Councillor Walker again.
Speaking in support of the amendment on the part of Councillor Watson and Lee, if I can speak first to point A, entirely support the delivery of works at Waikaraka Park. And that amendment mentions the Waikaraka Park master plan, which is in place and has been consulted on and is appropriate to the venue. So why would you not support that? I have a real concern that as it goes to that the funding should come through Auckland Council. At the end of the day, we're talking about an Auckland Council budget, and everything we've heard about the budget for this particular funding through TAU is completely fudged. They don't generate any of their own capital, not a cracker. They're proposing to take money from the zoo and Mount Smart and elsewhere in order to do this. They've openly said that they seek reimbursement of $8 million of it anyway. So that's a concession that their funding really doesn't stack up. And if you look at the 1.1 million, which is essentially their forecast, we actually have no way of knowing and no substantial information that that is actually going to work, because we're talking about 1.1 million in revenue. They have to earn significantly more than that in order to make that happen. I just don't think it's credible. I don't think it's credible in the current stadium landscape, and in particular in the landscape going forward, where we are going to see more content at Eden Park and I think a high likelihood of other venues. So it makes sense to support option A. As far as option B is concerned, I think any councillor would know that this process has been absolutely woeful. As Councillor Watson has pointed out, it has been jacked up. We only had 2 days to consider the agenda. The budget has been fudged. The consultation has been fudged, and some of it arguably has been fraudulent. We now know that there is overwhelming support to stay at Western Springs. We also know, and I know personally, that the reason that the promoter wants to go is because in large part they've had no other choice, and practicable options to stay at Western Springs, which would be part of an analysis under B, have not been given to us. So I established through my questioning that the additional costs in staying at Western Springs are probably minimal, that work has to occur there anyway, and if there is a location that is going to be subject to flooding on an ongoing basis, I've established from information that I've obtained via Healthy Waters that we should also have before us, but we have not, that Western Springs Stadium is going to have ongoing problems. The Meolda stream is right on its doorstep at the property boundary, and there's little, if anything, we can do to prevent additional flooding. But there is one activity that can bounce back, that has a dirt track, that can be remediated at very little cost, and that is Speedway. You wouldn't want to develop anything else there that used a high amount of capital in a floodplain, and there's no way that we would achieve insurance on that. But again, we've had no advice on that, but I certainly know it to be the case. So we should be supporting B, because everything to date has been fudged. We know we should be making some imminent decisions around Eden Park. I've been on the Stadium Working Party process. That was a complete jack-up, frankly, but that's another story. But I think that we will see Eden Park as the likely outcome, and they're fast-tracking that process anyway. So as councillors exercising our judgment and taking into account the information that we're receiving, it makes sense to vote for option B. We also know that there are other offers coming through, such as the offer from Olnar of the Extreme Drivers League, well qualified, well financed, well experienced, to support complementary speedway-based activities at Western Springs. All of these are practicable options that work. So what is wrong with any of the wording in option B? It all stacks up. It means that we're doing things in a diligent and a considered way, with the public of Auckland able to have confidence in us, and certainly on the basis of consultation that's far more effective, far more transparent, and much, much better than we have done to date, which is, I say, has been. So why wouldn't councillors vote for B? It makes sense.
Thank you. We've now had 3 consecutive speakers in favour of the amendment. I've got 2 bit more. Are you speaking in favour of the amendment or against the amendment? Because I've got 3 in favour, and that's all I have to have.
But at this stage against, just to let you know. I wanted to not say. Just want to let you know that I understand the 3 for and the 3 against. That's why I put my hand up, so I wish to speak. I want to say to our staff, well done with the consultation that you have gone through, not only since 2012, I'm going back to 2012, at Pukuhi, 2012. We were there at the governing body meeting and we started to talk about the Stadia strategy, 2012. Since then, 6 years, and it's ironic that it's been 6 years so far that I'm going to talk about. And the 6 years ended up at 2018, around when this came to the council. Some of the members around this table were around that decision-making table in November. I want to congratulate the staff for the work, not only in 2018, because don't forget it was June 2018, it was also in November of 2018, and also in May of 2019. The consultation, I'm going to the Local Government Act 2002. Under Section 76, every decision made by a local authority must be made in accordance with such of the provisions of 77, 78, 80, 81, 82, as are applicable. 77, requirements in relation to decisions. I have so much information and I have been informed to make a decision today. And that's exactly what I'll be making. Not only on this amendment, but also if this is, I was going to say put down, if this doesn't go through, I will be also speaking on the substantive. I will not be voting for this amendment. What I've heard so far, and this disappoints me obviously, that there were some words, and I know it wasn't intentional, but aimed at our staff. I know that should never ever happen. And I want to acknowledge again the staff, going back to 2018 and also to AT Tataki Auckland Limited. Congratulations, because I believe that you have covered, under the Local Government Act 2002, you have covered the consultation part for me. I'm not going to go through the designs. In regards to this amendment, and there have been some comments made about the Ponsonby Rugby Club and the history that they have, not only the 150 years, but also the history that they are attached to Western Springs. As I said when we asked our partai, when we first was talking to our staff, I'm looking forward to the debate. I'm looking forward to especially the Ponsonby Rugby Club. I'm putting aside rumours that around the Auckland FC. I'm putting aside those rumours. And the reason I'm putting those rumours aside is because I know, and I'm waiting for the information around the Ponsonby Rugby Club, I know where I'm going to end up pushing. But I'm going to wait for that to happen first. In regards to Speedway, it's been known right through 2018. We've always known. Don't forget, initially you were supposed to go to Collindale Park. My history goes back 2000 and I'm getting too old. 2003, when I was a councillor in the Manukau City Council. Councillor Newman was there, and when we formed Collindale Park, that was going to be, when Councillor Newman ended up in there, because I'd been there longer than him, but I know that Councillor Stewart was. But when we formed Collindale Park, that was around Speedway. We knew then that when Collindale Park was there, that Speedway had a shelf life. And ever since then, we've known, the information that I have received has informed me totally. I am confident in making my decision. But my first decision that I'll be making is to vote this down. I will not be supporting this. I'm hoping the councillors don't support this. Therefore, then we can move on to the substantive. Give the local board, Maunga Keke Tamaki, give them what they want. Give them the ability to do what they want to do with the master plan. And I know people are pointing. I've read the amendment. I am not supporting the amendment. Councillor Lee, out of respect to you, and I do have a lot of respect, I did not interrupt you. I'm just asking that you afford me the same courtesy, because I do have respect for you, Councillor Lee, and that's all I'm asking. So look, for me, again, staff, I want to acknowledge the work that you have done, nodding on this, and I'm glad I heard the bell. But look, that's what I'm doing, and that's what I want the rest of us to do as well. Kia ora.
Thank you. Councillor Dalton, do you wish to speak or not?
Yes, I'll speak against the amendment as well. And I was just reflecting, basically, it's what Councillor Filipaina has said, but going back to the minutes of the 2018 meeting, which is before I got here, same thing. Defer the decision on the relocation of Western Spring Speedway. How many times are we going to do it? How many times? There's been so much information that we have had at the governing body, at committees, around the discussions of stadia, what is going to happen next, and how many stadium working parties have we had as well. So we can continue to go around and round and round in circles. I have no desire to do that. We need to make some decisions for the city based on all the information that we have had as elected members, which is a lot more than many other people have had. We have had a lot of information. So I will be voting against the amendment, and I want to go back to the substantive and have a debate on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bartley.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm speaking against the amendment. In regards to A, it isn't just about upgrading the speedway. The Waikaraka Park Master Plan is that whole area, which actually could commit council to millions. And as the multi-millions, actually, and as the council for that area, I don't mind. I think that's going to be a win for the local board to get commitment from this council to pour in multi-millions into the Waikaraka Park area. But that's, with my regional hat on, that's something we can't afford. And the rates will go up. That's right, Councillor Sayers. In terms of B, people have been talking about how this has been light speed. This has actually been a decision that's taking 6 years to make. And I would just really like us to get to the point where we can make that decision, hopefully with this voted down, and we can get to the substantive. Thank you.
Righto, thank you. I've had three each way. I'm going to put the amendment, okay? Division, apparently, by amendment. Okay, so that we are voting on the amendment. I'll ask Sandra to go through the process, please.
Thank you, members. You're voting on the amendment which has been on your screen. Councillor Baker.
Against.
Councillor Bartley.
Against.
Councillor Dalton.
Against.
Councillor Darby.
Against.
Councillor Ferry.
Against.
Councillor Filipaina.
Against.
Councillor Fletcher.
For.
Councillor Foley.
Against.
Councillor Lee.
Aye.
Councillor Leone.
Against.
Councillor Newman.
Well, I'm against A, and I actually support B.
What's that mean?
I don't support the funding of the entire master plan for the very reasons that Councillor Bartley's just stated. But the issue of B, I actually think that is an unresolved matter, so I support that.
So what's the vote? Yeah,
What's the answer then? What
we
do
would have to vote on them separately.
We're not. It might be moot anyhow. Abstain. Move on.
Well, we need to put something there.
Okay, I'll vote against.
Thank you. Councillor Sayers.
Very interesting, Daniel. Same thoughts. I'll have to vote against.
Deputy Mayor Simpson. Councillor Stewart. Councillor Turner.
For.
Councillor Walker.
For.
Councillor Watson. Councillor Williamson. Mayor Brown.
Against. Righto. Now we'll move to what we came here for earlier in the day. Put it back up there so we can remember what it was. Basically, I've proposed this because this will give Speedway 30 years of solid action on an upgraded plan, and they'll know what they're doing. And it will avoid the risk of Speedway ending at the end of the next season, which is a very real risk to Speedway. We have an operator in Palmerston North Speedway. We have an agreement with stock cars, and we get much better use out of a facility. And it's in a place where you could probably even get more use than the 44 that they've got, because it's a place that's quiet, hard to get to, is not undergoing the type of urban regeneration and gentrification that Council Lee doesn't like, but which is happening everywhere. I'm not mad about it either, but it is happening. So, I'm taking debates on that. If anyone's got anything to say, I seem to remember that Councillor Philippine wanted to speak on this, so you may as well kick it away.
Chair, as per standing orders, and it's been quoted by Sandra, I just want to ask you a question in regards to C. It's going to be a very short question. And the question, Chair, is that with the decision around the Ponsonby Rugby Club moving or not from Western Springs, will that come back to the governing body for that decision to be made?
Absolutely. What I'm asking there is that I want everybody to clearly understand there's been some lack of clarity of actually what Ponce have been spoken to about. I noticed when they said that the staff hadn't approached them, Sir Brian actually nodded his head in a negative to the extent it's unclear, so we need total clarity about that. And we want them to have a result which reflects 150 years of sport for a club which has got more members than any other club. And it's a club that's in good order. There are a lot of clubs in Auckland, including my old one, that are in a bit of spot of bother financially at the moment. So it's a debate worth having.
Yeah, no, look, I trust you in regards to ensuring, because it's not clear in C, that the decision around the future of Ponsonby Rugby Club will come back to the governing body. So, Chair, if that is clear, I'm okay with that. And if we're into the debate, I will start the debate if that's okay. Yeah. Yep. Oh, okay. So this is going to be shorter than when I spoke about the amendment. I've already acknowledged the staff in regards to the work that they have done and put in front of us, and it does cover, from my perspective, the Local Government Act 2002. I just want to make some very quick quotes that I ended up picking up and that I had in my folder going back to 2018 and the subsequent media coverage around this particular issue. And if I go chronologically, I go to June 2018, and just there was just reported by Speedway Promotions said the challenges it faces are vast, and rather than delay the inevitable, it's decided to move to Collindale Park near Auckland International Airport. Yes, I know it's not Collindale Park, but it's the point around moving. Now, that was reported in June of 2013, and what I want to bring to the attention of those around this table is a quote from Bill Buckley, which is, we'll be able to put more meetings on. We're having to limit the number of competitors, and any sport doesn't like that. So look, that's the reason for that. And the other one I want to quote is in November of 2018 from Radio New Zealand, and it you know, from there, the discussion with Collindale Park, but there was a move in regards to that. The last comment I want to make is at our Auckland on the 15th of March 2019, if you have the opportunity, read that. And it was from ex-Mayor Phil Goff, this is about the move to Collindale Park, supports Bill Buckley's vision, which will allow the sport to grow without the constraints currently imposed by the Environmental Court on the number of meetings that can be held. Through the partai, we have had discussions around how many events can be held at Western Springs for Speedway, and as people have said around this table, that will increase, and that is so much better. I want to congratulate again the Mongakeke Tamaki Local Board in regards to that, but also to the Chair of Tātaki Auckland Unlimited. You were very, very clear in regards to the decision from Tātaki Auckland Unlimited in regards to any future funding. And so I congratulate you in regards to being straight up, because that's all we want to do around this table, is to make decisions that are clear cut. And my decision is to support the recommendations. Kia ora.
I don't have any other further ones. I do have, and then I'm going to put it.
2 seconds. Are you talking, Councillor Turner?
Sorry, just said that
Okay. So I've said plenty today. The only people I want to congratulate and thank are the people who have kept Western Springs Speedway going for the last 95 years. They're the only people that deserve attention and recognition today. It's been an iconic venue. It's been part of every Aucklander's heritage or birthright. The people that go along, largely from the West, are intergenerational. It's identifiable with Auckland as Eden Park and Carlow Park used to be. So it is a very sad day for not just that Speedway fraternity, but for Auckland. We've essentially lost a venue that was internationally acclaimed, a little bit like Eden Park, a venue that seems to be least appreciated by the people that live in the city in which it's located. As far as the future goes, I think it's fraught. I'm not an expert in Speedway, but I know that there's been numerable instances overseas where venues have changed, and along with that, go drop in patronage. Speedway without the fans, like any sport without the fans, fails to exist in any meaningful sense. There are safety issues there. There's a very real question of whether people will not only go out there, but as to a comparison between an iconic venue like Western Springs and, with all due respect to Waikaraka, racing out at Waikaraka, it's like day and night. So I think the people that have turned up today and sat through this, you may be a little bit wiser as to the way the council operates now, and I'll leave you to form your own judgments to that. But I want to thank those people who, in the very limited time available to them, fought very hard to save this iconic stadium and the code that goes with it at that location for the wider Auckland public.
Thank you. Michael East next, and I've got.
In regard to A, which I will not be supporting, the idea that we're meant to be voting on 11 million of existing long-term plan funding from Tātaki Auckland Unlimited to the Maunga Kia Tamaki Local Board is just a fiction. In fact, 3 million will be coming from Tātaki, the rest will be coming from the council. The local board will have virtually nothing to do with it because essentially all the work and the contractors and those relationships will be driven by Tātaki, not the local board. So let's be honest about it. The second thing I want to say about this form of decision making, issuing ultimatums to long-standing tenants is in effect bullying. Offering inducements to a local board to sign up in support of it, well, I won't talk about that. But excluding interested parties from being able to come to this council and put their point of view is not the is certainly not the council putting light on itself. I can tell you that it's a very bad decision indeed, and this council will live to regret it. Thank you.
Councillor Walker, please. Hello, Councillor Walker.
Thanks for the opportunity to speak to this. Like Councillor Watson and Councillor Lee, I'm deeply grateful to the Speedway supporters and others that within an incredibly short space of time have actually come together and put up some very, very effective arguments and pleas and support for keeping Speedway at Western Springs. Regretfully, the process has been fudged, it's been jacked up, it's been rammed through. I've already spoken of that, I won't repeat myself there. But what I haven't said is that Speedway is much more than most other sports, in the sense that you've got the drivers, you've got the mechanics, the crews, you've got organisation around clubs, you've got the fans, many businesses, sponsors. It's a multi-million dollar exercise that, again, we've received little or no information about around the overall effects. We haven't heard anything about how good Western Springs is as a venue. It's a natural amphitheatre. It works well. That helps to muffle the sound as well. And it's been compliant in respect of its resource consenting. And we've also heard people coming out with ideas around how to make it work. But what we've heard from Auckland Unlimited is frankly not credible. Other councillors and myself have established that. Essentially, it's Auckland Council budget that we're talking about here, not TAU budget at all. Waikaraka Park is a local park, it's a local reserve, and again, it's Auckland Council funding that should be directed to that. So we're dealing with smoke and mirrors, and we've dealt with it in a very unsatisfactory way. So I'll be voting against A, but I'm supportive of B and C, and I would request of the Mayor that we be given an opportunity to vote separately on A as compared to B and C. And I'd request a division. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Bartley, please.
Oh, thank you, Your Worship. Okay. I respect the severity of this debate and the potential repercussions for those that are sitting in the public gallery, and respect the arguments being put forward by Councillor Watson and Councillor Walker regarding Western Springs Speedway. But I am in support of this. Obviously, I'm the seconder. Obviously, there are benefits to Maunga Kiki with the Maunga Kiki Tamaki Local Board and all their advocacy throughout the years to support Auckland Stock and Saloon Car Club and Waikaraka Park, and I acknowledge them. But this is also the benefits to the city. And this is a solution being offered up by Tātaki Auckland Unlimited, doing what we asked them to do. We asked them to look at our venues, to look at more non-rates revenue, and that is what they've done. They've so invested in this that they're putting money towards it, the 11 million, and the 11 million is to upgrade Waikaraka Park to be open to these other classes. So the upgrade is to take on, to accommodate, other sorts of motorsport. And when I think about motorsport, and I look at our Auckland Sport and Recreation Strategic Action Plan, this talks about participation. So people will challenge us, why are we supporting something that puts $11 million into a spectator sport and not so much about participation, which is what our policy is about? Some of us are getting lobbied, not just about this, we're also getting lobbied. We're in a climate emergency and we're wanting to invest in a sport that is about cars. So there's a lot of arguments that can be at play here, but what we look at, like I didn't have anything to do with motorsport before I was on the local board, but I went and I saw for myself that it's a community, it's something that is for families. The people that go to watch this sport, the people that participate in it are from diverse backgrounds. So there is a place for this sport in our city. And I believe that this provides a solution because I hear that, the drivers, Speedway, there's a spiritual, historical connection to Western Springs. But from what I've seen around here, the presiding factor for our decision-making comes down to money, affordability. And we can't just look at spiritual. Otherwise, there are a lot of things that we would like to see happen and we would like us to fund, which, we just can't. And these are those difficult situations that we're in. Tātaki Auckland Unlimited have put the argument that it actually costs to remain at Western Springs. Some of us around here always talk about money, the money side of things. It's costing us to stay there. If Speedway moves from there, we can make money from concerts. So I'm looking at that. I'm looking at the cost of it and also looking at how we support it going forward because there's the issues of the number of events. Tātaki have told us 12 events versus 35 events. You're operating in Western Springs where noise is an issue for people that are around there. We've had people come and lobby us to say it's too noisy there. In the Waikaraka Park scenario, you don't have people complaining about the noise because it's an industrial area. And you've also got the background noise of the industry or of the industrial area. So residents are not coming to us saying this is too noisy. In fact, what the community there are saying is Waikaraka Park Speedway, it goes in, it's hand in hand with moving into that area. So there is that. Yeah, thank you. The issue of longevity of tenure. Waikaraka Park, Auckland Stock and Saloon Car Club have that longevity of tenure, which, as we've heard today, is not afforded at the Western Springs venue. So, yeah, so in terms of greatest value for investment, it's very clear where the solution lies, where the option lies, and that is through this resolution, that is with Waikaraka Park. So I hope we consider that in all our decision making. We consider that this is providing sustainability for a sport that we obviously can see has a place in our city. And yeah, I just hope we vote accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Darby, please.
Thanks, Mayor. Well, it's been a long haul. I think we're coming up to 7 hours on this item, taking into account the earlier 2 hours at the last week on this. Look, I understand Speedway's got a big long history here. I remember Speedway back in my youth, your youth, at the Springs, and I acknowledge that history and the bind that people have to this place. And I understand the passion that people that have come to this meeting today have for that place. It reminds me of I used to live in North London at Highbury Fields, down the road from the Arsenal ground, and there was some early discussion there about Arsenal rebuilding their stadium, and then they eventually, after I left London, they decided to build a new stadium. But the Arsenal fans were adamant. They were going nowhere. They were going to hold on to the fortress of the Highbury Stadium. And now they've got the flash Emirates Stadium down in the Holloway Road area, not too far from Highbury, and the club has moved on. And Carisbrook, there's so many sporting venues where you just have to move on. And we are providing an opportunity for Speedway to move on and build a whole new era of success for them. We've got an event promoter who's prepared to take that risk. He's taking a risk. And they're putting money in, we're putting money in. This is a good collaborative move forward for Speedway. Now, I understand some can't see that. Just like so many Arsenal fans that have forgotten entirely about their opposition, and they're probably out in the Emirates Stadium this weekend and the next cheering on their Arsenal team in the English Premier League. But look, the truth is, and it's a really blunt truth, isn't it? No matter what way you stack this up, we're losing, we're bleeding badly with Speedway at Western Springs. There's an opportunity cost. There's a financial cost. The planning constraints are quite significant there. And you will not be going back and thinking that there is some kind of way we're going to redo the unitary plan to get Speedway there. There will be objections galore for that, and I think it's a hiding to nothing on sorting out that planning area. So there's an opportunity beckoning here, and I would say it's time to just take it and move on. We've been discussing this for years, as Councillor Philippinus reminded us. But I do want to say that this whole meeting of coming up 7 hours has been pretty painful to listen to. I don't think it's been professional governance at all. And I've been embarrassed to hear such words as ambush, sham, jack up, fraudulent. No, councillor, you hire your own room now and speak to some blank walls forever. This is my turn. This is my turn. It is an embarrassment. And I think some councillors around this table need to have a close look at the video and look at some of the words that they've spat out with venom, targeted at our Tātaki chair, our Tātaki chief executive, and our senior executives who have sat at this table and given us the evidence and data to help inform us in making this decision. It's an embarrassment. And I think, the Minister of Local Government, no, go back to your room. I'll hire you your own room if you like, councillor. And I wonder whether the Ministry of Local Government, in considering an observer for Wellington City Council, is viewing the episode here over the last 7 hours, because it is possibly equally as bad. It's some of the poorest governance I've seen in my time here at Auckland Council. And I'm saying this strongly because I'm not going to tolerate it. I have no room for this behaviour. It is an abomination.
So it's not letting us speak.
And we've spent coming up 7 hours.
Order.
And these comments are just offensive. It's the uncomfortable truth of it. They are not landing well with those councillors who have spat out that venom. So, I'm not going to delay any longer. I'm not going to defer. I'm not going to obfuscate and denigrate the staff. I'm going to be supporting this move forward. And I hope Speedway can actually see the opportunity that's right in front of their noses here. At least the event promoter can. And good luck to them.
Thank you. Councillor Baker.
I was just about to pull the pin, but and so look, I mean, I got stuck in a conversation on Saturday night, an event with a long-term supporter and lover of Speedway, and we had a long chat, and I asked him what it was that he was so worried about losing at Western Springs, and it was the history. And we've had that mentioned again and again today, the history. And like Chris, you know, I'm from Pukekohe. We lost in 2023 our motor track, which has a huge history, 60 years after the Grand Prix in New Zealand was held in the 50s and the 60s, again in Franklin at Ardmore. It moved to Pukekohe. We lost that. It's gone 31 kilometres, while the supercars, which was the biggest event that Auckland had on a weekendly basis of any event we had, went to Taupo. We lost it. The motorsport industry in Pukekohe and elsewhere, and there are a lot of people in Pukekohe who own cars and have them in their sheds and in their workshops, were irate that the racing club were closing down their track. Are they still irate? No, they're not, because they have simply moved on, because they have moved to something they believe is better at Hampton Downs. The supercars have gone to where they are quite happy at Taupo. Like Chris was saying, Carisbrook, Athletic Park, there are iconic Wembley, one of the most famous stadiums in the world, is a new stadium. I get the history, I get the anxiety, and as we heard the other day from someone involved in rugby league when they moved from Carlaw Park, the memories are still there. The memories don't fade, but the venue is new, and so I get the history, I get the anxiety, I understand why there is a reluctance, but this is, I believe, the right decision at the right time. I don't buy into the conspiracy theories. I am really disappointed at the veiled attacks on our staff today. As sort of not in the same, I won't use the same words that Chris did, but I'm really disappointed in that. And so, you know, we should be better than that. And we should just be able to debate without having the veiled attacks on our staff. There are means in which we can address things if we've got concerns, but instead we like to throw things out into the public. So I don't agree with that, and it's really disappointing, and I want to thank our staff for the way in which they have conducted themselves, because they have no way of responding when we, like schoolyard bullies, start to attack them. I also want to just acknowledge the local board. They have been basically accused of not knowing what they're doing and not having any idea that somehow Te Taki Auckland Unlimited are riding in and are treating them poorly. They have spoken time and time again and are very clear, and I have absolutely faith and confidence they are an extremely experienced local board. They know what they're doing, and I acknowledge you for being here, the chair and the deputy, both very experienced, and I acknowledge you and thank you, because you are onto something and you are doing the best for your community, but also for wider Auckland. So I think I'm too am interested in just how Steve Kilgallen got a little scoop, and I've listened to a lot of the things that have been said here today. Maybe when we're looking around as to where that information is coming from, maybe we look in the wrong direction. But I'll be supporting this.
Move that the motion be put.
And I'll second.
Okay, it's been put, a closure motion, you don't have a debate on that according to the rules, so
Under 1.6.1B, entitled to move a motion that the debate be put, we've had 3 in favour and 3 against and more.
okay, this closure motion be put. All those in favour?
No.
Contrary? No. I'll count those by hands. Pardon?
Thank you,
Division, go.
members. You're voting on a closure motion that the motion be put.
Motion, yeah, we voted for this.
Councillor Baker.
Sit here and talk about process.
Sorry,
I've only been here 2 years. No wonder the people seem.
Point of order.
The order,
Councillor
this
Turner.
is the process.
I had my
It's
hand up
standing
too,
orders.
Councillor Turner, but
Oh, you pulled a stunt on me because I'm a tradie, I'm out of my depth
Point
here.
of
You know,
order.
I've got to accommodate people
Councillor
like me.
Turner.
Ken,
Jesus, it's-
Sorry, a closure motion needs to be put without debate. And a division has been called. Councillor Baker.
For.
Councillor Bartley.
For.
Councillor Dalton.
For.
Councillor Darby.
For.
Councillor Ferry.
4.
Councillor Filipina.
Aye.
Councillor Fletcher. No. Councillor Foley.
For.
Councillor Lee.
No.
Councillor Leone.
4.
Councillor Newman.
Against.
Councillor Sayers.
For.
Deputy Mayor Simpson. 4. Oh, did you say 4?
She said yes.
Thank you. Councillor Stewart. No. Councillor Turner.
Against.
Councillor Walker.
To clarify, Desley, I think it was an against.
Against closing. Thank you. Councillor Walker.
Was Simpson against?
You need to put that he's absent for the vote. Councillor Watson.
No.
Councillor Williamson.
No.
Mayor Brown.
I think Councillor Simpson was for. Just check that again.
She was against.
She was for democracy.
Okay, right, well, I'm for.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to put the motion, the substantial one. It's been called for a division on the substantial motion. Okay, call the substantial motion, please.
Thank you, members. You're voting on A, B and C. Is it all together?
Point of order, please. Could councillors please stop attacking Councillor Ferry? That is not appropriate.
What about including me? You all know I have a dyslexic problem and slow to come.
Councillor Turner.
Councillor Turner, please.
You're just inclusive. You go on about inclusive and all this crap that they do in all that much.
It's 7 hours of this. You know, this is what you get when you're a councillor. You have to learn the rules.
This is what the public gets when they're not.
When they elect people who don't know what they're doing. Righto, we are putting this motion and it will be put by the...
Thank you, members. You're voting on the substantive motion. Councillor Baker.
For.
Councillor Bartley.
For.
Councillor Dalton.
For.
Councillor Darby.
For.
Councillor Ferry.
4.
Councillor Filipina.
Aye.
Councillor Fletcher.
No on A and yes on B and C.
Okay, so it's Councillor Foley.
For.
Councillor Lee.
No on A.
Councillor Leone.
4.
Councillor Newman.
Absolutely not.
Councillor Sayers.
For.
Deputy Mayor Simpson. Councillor Stewart.
No.
Councillor Turner,
Against.
Councillor Walker,
No on A, yes on B and C.
Councillor Watson,
No on A, yes on
Councillor Williamson,
Well, no on A and yes on B and C. I don't know how we're not splitting, having two separate votes. I thought that's what we
Coun-
agreed to do.
Councillor, Mayor Brown.
For.
That's carried 11 votes to 8.
Okay, thank you for your attendance. I'm going to close the meeting. Cheers. Thank you for the public behaving properly and attending. Thank you.